comfort zones?
No, well that, but it was like just real interesting. So I remember when I first met you, and you came to a class, and you know, knew what you were doing. You're functional, and you're talking about like, you know, doing the shooting and stuff. I was like, yeah, okay. And then later on, it comes out that like you did a career as a Coast Guard rescue swimmer, and it was just, it's a pursuit that really is interesting to me, especially with a guy like you that did crazy, what I think is like the worst, craziest shit you can possibly imagine. And to you, it's no big deal. And then you talk to like guys that did, you know, operational CQB and everything, and you're like, oh, this is like, I can't imagine doing this. And we're like, it's not that big a deal. And, and it was just real interesting how those two like things, you know, kind of collided. Before I, you know, met you and we trade war stories, like I never met a Coast Guard rescue swimmer, and the things that you did operationally is just absolute insanity in my book. But anyway, talk to me a little bit about that, you know, for the viewers at home.
so yeah, I'm a retired Coast Guard rescue swimmer. I retired from the Coast Guard last May. Officially was my out date. I did 20 years, and they had me for 9 extra days. I couldn't get it out right at 20, you know. They had some weird date mumbo jumbo where they cornered me for an extra week and a half. But
did you get any rescues during that week and a half?
No.
You fit one last one in. Not even supposed to be here right now. Yeah.
Man, it did really cool off there at the end. It's kind of funny. I've always said that like the rescues go the way that like the people that are, you know, kind of like designed to do them. So that's another story though. But so yeah, so 20 years as a rescue swimmer. I joined when I was 21, and you know, I saw the brochure trifold, and there was a guy hanging outside of a Dolphin helicopter with some fins and an orange wetsuit on, and I was like, that's it, that's the job that I want to do, and found out.
Give me the snorkel.
Let's
fucking do this. Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, apparently it's like a 80% attrition rate and the hardest job to get in the Coast Guard, and yeah, and that was the beginning of the, you know, the road to hoe of becoming a rescue swimmer. It took me just about 4 years to make my way through the pipeline, and
wow,
which is much longer than the average person. I had a
just wanted to really make sure you got it. Like,
man, anything worth doing once is worth doing twice, right? You know. So so I definitely fell off the bicycle a couple times on the way, you know, and had to get back on and go to it again. But finally got through, and you know, got the job, and have had the opportunity to impact some people on, you know, make their worst day of their life the best day of my life. You know, like to get to do an operational rescue, and I've gotten a few of them.
Nice.
It's you know, it's definitely a special thing to be able to go out and use the skills that you've been taught and trained to do to carry someone safely back to their family or their loved ones, and you know, and to know that you hang up a career, and there's folks that are going to sit down to the table this Thanksgiving and be with their families because of the work that you and your homies do. Yeah.
It's you know, there's a couple pursuits in life that you can, I mean, you should have this mentality in every pursuit in life, you know, in theory, briefs really well. But for those of us, it's just cool because we accomplish the same thing but wildly differently.
Yeah, yeah.
And what I mean by that is like, hey, what you're preparing for and the things that you're doing, if you fuck it up, you will die, and potentially other people will die. You know, that's the mindset.
Yeah.
And then the skills and techniques were obviously radically different between, you know, rescue swimmers and assaulters or commandos or whatever. But the end state was the same, and the mindset was the same. And the reason I guess I'm kind of fascinated after I met you and I've watched you kind of do this kind of stuff is like that part didn't change. Application is different, you know, and your circumstances now are different because now you're like, hey, dude, I'm a Johnny homeowner with a wife and a kid and a gun, and you know, I'm going to put some effort into this thing because maybe one day, if I don't do this right,
people are going to get hurt.
Yeah, either myself or somebody else is going to get hurt. So it's just it's really
Yeah, I think
haven't ran into something this extreme before. I mean, we get, you know, firefighters, obviously, those types of pursuits, cops, of course, military guys, of course, Coast Guard guys, which is
the rare one.
The Coast Guard is the DOD when it's deployed, right? But when it's stateside, it's not DOD. I don't know. I know there's some weird shit there.
No, I mean we're always Homeland Security. I mean, there's been a couple times in history that we were transferred to Department of the Navy to support war efforts. So like the guys that drove Higgins boats on D-Day, those were Coast Guard coxswains. It's pretty cool. Like whenever you sign up, you roger up, you do your MEPS, your in-processing and all that stuff, and then you go to boot camp. Well, like shortly after I had arrived at my company, and we'd, like taking you, your company commanders take you, and they start to do their indoctrination stuff. Well, like one of the first mornings, they march us into the classroom, and they played the opening scene to Saving Private Ryan. Oh, yeah. And they're like, because they kind of want to get that bubble over you.
Like, is this?
And you're like, I joined the Coast Guard. Why are we watching this war film?
Give
and
me
like,
my M1
you guys thought you were safe joining the Coast Guard, did you? Who do you think's driving those boats? Those are Coast Guard coxswains. And you're like, I fucked up. Oh God. So,
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. So they're just like, we got you under your thumb. So they set the tone right out the gate. But I think, like that's you and I was in someone else's class, and I think I just had like all my kit on, and you walk over and you start like sizing me up, and like
that's what we all do.
Yeah. And you're like, who's this guy? You get your shit all stuffed in one sock, what's your story, man? Mm-hmm. And we start talking, and I think it's like, like you said, the actions and the things that we did were very different, but it's the mindsets that were very similar. And I think that's how we always end up finding those like-minded people. You're like, you speak the same language.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think if everybody just focused on like commonalities, but we'd be much better off than we are right now. But anyway, that's an awesome backstory, man, and thanks for telling it. I appreciate it. It really puts into perspective like what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're doing it, and the mentality that's like going into it. Like Lowcountry Range Day will effing be successful, and it'll be awesome.
Thanks, man. And that's, it's like you said, it's a mindset. Like I really only know one way to attack something, and like, I got into bodybuilding while I was in the Coast Guard as a rescue swimmer,
I never would have guessed.
as a means to stay fit. And, I competed at the national level in bodybuilding, if you can imagine that.
Yeah.
I went hard there too, and so now like.
That's by weight class, right?
Yep.
I always thought they should have done bodybuilding by height class and not weight class.
So they started to get into that at a time, and they started height and weight. But yeah, so I mean, got into the shooting space, and like I only know one way to attack it, which is wide the fuck open. And I went to as many classes as I could, and ended up in all kinds of strange places. And one of the last classes I took was with you, and we were shooting guns from a helicopter.
Oh yeah, good times.
As a civilian.
Yeah, I know.
And
me too.
and now I'm going to I've launched my own business and hosting a range day so that I can hopefully continue to me, I think as I was getting out of the Coast Guard, one of the things I was really getting into, and I think was starting to self-actualize, was the leadership portion. And then, but it was body-wise and mentally-wise, it was time to move on. But like, I feel like I still have that leadership bug. So it's a means for me to
coach,
still
mentor, develop. Yeah, all that good stuff, dude.
So yeah. Lowcountry Range Days.
Fantastic, man. Thanks for your time, Donnie.
Dude.
I love you, brother. Yep, this is going to be a great time.
Appreciate it.